Texas is not simply another American state. It entered the United States with a history of independence. The single star on its flag originates from the Republic of Texas. A country that existed on the world map from 1836 to 1845. Geographically, the state plays in its own league. At more than 268,000 square miles, it is by far the largest in the contiguous United States. Yet Texas is leading not only in size, its economy ranks second in the United States, surpassed only by California. The discovery of oil in the early 20th century transformed the state from largely rural to industrial. But Texas today is equally defined by high technology. And even hosts the world's most modern spaceport. The immense size allows for an unusual concentration of landscapes within a single political boundary. Central Texas hosts large metropolitan areas, while the east turns humid and green, with swamps that feel closer to the deep south. In the west, deserts and mountain ranges define the edges of the Chihuahuan Desert, cut by deep canyons. At the far southern edge of Texas, the Rio Grande forms a natural boundary between the United States and Mexico. Here, Big Bend National Park protects three distinct ecosystems that collide in a single landscape. It is vast by any measure, over 800,000 acres, making it one of the largest protected areas in the continental US, and also one of the least visited. Along the river lies the Rio Grande Riparian Corridor, a green ribbon of cottonwoods, willows, and cane. To the north and east stretches the Chihuahuan Desert, dominated by an exceptional diversity of cacti. Above this arid floor, the Chisos Mountains form a cool, forested island. Their highest point reaches nearly a mile above the Rio Grande. Further west, limestone walls of Santa Elena Canyon rise nearly 1,500 feet straight from the river. A short trail descends to the canyon floor where echoes bounce off stone and the Rio Grande moves slowly. From Big Bend, we follow the river upstream to El Paso, a border city in the most literal sense. Together with Ciudad Juarez on the Mexican side, it forms one of the largest binational metropolitan areas in the Western Hemisphere. For nearly 200 years, the settlement functioned as a unified community. That changed in the 19th century, After Texas won independence from Mexico in 1836, the region became contested ground. Until the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848 fixed the Rio Grande as the international boundary. What had been one town became two. Once wide and unpredictable, the river through El Paso is now largely controlled, straightened by concrete walls. International bridges cross it, busy with shoppers and families whose lives span both sides of the border. Despite its reputation, El Paso is consistently ranked among the safest large cities in the United States. Where streets end, pavement gives way to rock. And El Paso runs straight into the Franklin Mountains. This is one of the rare places in the United States where a major mountain range splits an urban area in two. The Franklin Mountains are among the oldest exposed mountain ranges in North America, with rocks dating back more than 1.2 billion years. What you see here is not the jagged drama of younger ranges, but something more stripped down and elemental. Their modern form comes from basin and range uplift. The same tectonic forces that shape much of the American Southwest. Protected within Franklin Mountain State Park, the range stretches roughly 23 miles north to south. Elevation climbs quickly from the desert floor to North Franklin Mountain, the range's highest point at over 7,000 feet. At night, city lights pool at the base of the mountains, while the peaks remain dark, still untouched and wild. The Monahans Sandhills landscape feels out of place until you understand that it is doing exactly what it has always done. The state park protects roughly 3,800 acres of active dunes, part of a much larger sand sheet that once covered vast portions of the Permian Basin. Their forms are constantly reshaped by prevailing winds, advancing, retreating, and reorganizing grain by grain. Some dunes here rise more than 70 feet above the surrounding flats. Their crests sharp, their slopes soft and unstable underfoot. Unlike the Sahara-style deserts people imagine, these sands owe their existence to water as much as wind. During wetter periods thousands of years ago, sediments were deposited by rivers and shallow lakes. As the climate dried, vegetation retreated and wind took over. Even now, grasses and mesquite attempt to anchor the dunes. while bare sand continues its slow migration. Around the Sandhills, endless fields of pumpjacks stretch in every direction. When black gold was discovered in commercial quantities in 1901, the strike triggered one of the largest oil booms in history. As early fields declined, exploration moved deeper into the interior until it reached the vast subsurface reserves of West Texas. The Permian Basin spans roughly 75,000 square miles and contains multiple productive formations stacked vertically. Layer upon layer of oil and gas-bearing rock. Today, the area produces nearly half of all U.S. crude oil, making it one of the most important energy regions in the world. Thousands of well pads, pump jacks nodding in unison, pipelines running parallel to highways, and flare stacks burning off excess gas. The work never stops. Oil here is extracted continuously, measured in barrels per day, priced by global markets, and shipped far beyond the desert. North of the Permian Basin, Palo Duro Canyon opens beneath the Texas Panhandle like a geological ambush. Often called the Grand Canyon of Texas, it is the second largest canyon system in the United States. Stretching more than 120 miles long, up to 20 miles wide, and plunging nearly 800 feet at its deepest points. What makes Palo Duro distinctive is not just scale, but color. Red beds, white gypsum, rust-colored sandstone, and ancient volcanic ash layers stack visibly along the canyon walls. The name, Spanish for hard stick, refers to the tough juniper wood early explorers found in the area. Rising from the canyon floor is its most recognizable landmark, Lighthouse Rock. This natural hoodoo stands approximately 300 feet tall. Its narrow upper section balanced improbably atop a broader base. Sitting high on the Llano Estacado, Amarillo grew rapidly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries as railroads connected the Panhandle to national markets. Cattle, grain, oil, and later helium shaped its economy. In fact, the nearby Cliffside gas field once supplied the majority of the world's helium. But Amarillo is also inseparable from the road. Historic Route 66 runs straight through town, bringing with it a lingering sense of mid-century. Just west of the city, along Interstate 40, one of Texas's strangest landmarks rises from a flat wheat field. Cadillac Ranch. Installed in 1974, the piece was conceived as a statement on American consumerism and automotive obsession. Unlike most public art, Cadillac Ranch is designed to be altered. Visitors are encouraged to spray paint the cars. Layers of graffiti build and peel away, creating a constantly changing record of names, slogans, symbols, and moods. East of Amarillo, Interstate 40 cuts straight through miles of open land before passing near Groom, a town of fewer than 600 residents. Here on the south side of the highway stands the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, completed in 1995. Commissioned by local evangelist Steve Thomas, it was built to be unmistakable at highway speed. At its base is a small religious complex with a chapel and a walking path featuring bronze sculptures of the Stations of the Cross. Further east, along the same highway, the Leaning Tower of Britain was never meant to be seen, let alone remembered. In the mid-20th century, Ralph Britton hauled the massive structure from Lefors to Groom. And turned it into a roadside lure for his truck shop. After repainting it with the words Britain, USA, he used a bulldozer to lift two of its legs off the ground, leaving them suspended. The business thrived for years until disaster struck. Britain's truck stop was eventually destroyed in a fire, ending the commercial life of the site. Few American cities wear their layered past as visibly and as practically as San Antonio. The city was founded in 1718 when Spanish authorities established Mission San Antonio de Valero. The settlement was part of Spain's effort to secure territory in northern New Spain and convert indigenous populations through a chain of missions. Mission San Antonio de Valero would later become known as the Alamo, the most recognized historical site in Texas. In 1836, during the Texas Revolution, the former mission was fortified by Texan forces resisting the Mexican government. Militarily, the battle was a defeat. Symbolically, it proved decisive, as Remember the Alamo became a rallying cry. The Riverwalk is a completely different expression of San Antonio's relationship with history and water. What visitors see today began as a response to disaster. In 1921, a major flood killed dozens of people and inundated downtown. To resolve the flooding problem, channels were lowered, adding floodgates and building pedestrian walkways below street level. Today, the Riverwalk includes more than 15 miles of connected walkways, linking downtown with cultural districts. Northeast of San Antonio, beneath the rolling limestone of the Texas Hill Country, the landscape opens downward. Natural Bridge Caverns, the largest known commercial cave system in Texas, were discovered in 1960 by 4 local college students. What they found was an extensive underground system formed over millions of years as groundwater slowly dissolved layers of limestone. The caverns extend for more than 10,000 feet of mapped passages, with new sections still being studied. Unlike many caves in Texas, the formations here are exceptionally dense and well preserved. Some rise more than 60 feet high, while others are thin enough to snap if touched. The caverns maintain a nearly constant temperature of around 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Humidity is high and lighting is carefully designed to minimize algae growth and protect the cave environment. At the far southern edge of Texas, a small coastal area is now known globally as the home of SpaceX's Starbase launch complex. The location was once quiet, almost to the point of absence. Boca Chica village consisted of a few dozen houses, surrounded by open coastal land. That changed in 2014, when SpaceX announced plans to build a private launch site here. Unlike Cape Canaveral or Vandenberg, which are long-established federal facilities, Boca Chica is an industrial test site designed for rapid iteration. Prototypes are built outdoors, transported short distances, tested, destroyed, redesigned, and rebuilt again. The facility is dedicated primarily to Starship, a fully reusable stainless steel launch system. Created for missions intended to reach as far as Mars, it consists of 2 stages: the Super Heavy booster and the upper stage designed to carry crew or cargo. When stacked, the vehicle stands over 400 feet tall, making it the largest and most powerful rocket ever flown. The coast of Texas is lined with narrow barrier islands. Long ribbons of sand formed by the interaction of waves. One of the most distinctive is South Padre Island. Stretching roughly 34 miles, it lies between the open Gulf and the shallow Laguna Madre. In places, the land is only a few hundred meters wide, emphasizing its role as a buffer zone between ocean and continent. Located along the Central Flyway, it's a major stopover for migratory birds traveling between North and South America. Access to the island is almost entirely dependent on the Queen Isabella Causeway, a 2.4-mile-long bridge connecting it to Port Isabel. Its distance from major river outlets results in clearer water and lighter coloured sand than beaches farther north. Human development on South Padre Island accelerated in the mid-20th century, transforming it into one of Texas's primary resort destinations. Hotels and condominiums cluster along the central section of the island, while large stretches of beach remain publicly accessible. Corpus Christi sits on a sheltered inlet separated from the Gulf of Mexico by barrier islands. This protected bay provides one of the deepest and most reliable ports on the Texas coast, capable of handling large commercial vessels. Today, the port of Corpus Christi is one of the busiest in the United States by tonnage, driven largely by crude oil. The Harbour Bridge, built in 1959, served for decades as both a transportation artery and a visual symbol of the city. Its replacement, a cable-stayed bridge currently nearing completion, is designed to provide increased clearance for ship traffic. On the northern side of the harbour, moored permanently at North Beach, is the USS Lexington. Commissioned in 1943, the Lexington is an Essex-class aircraft carrier that served extensively in the Pacific Theatre during World War II. Decommissioned in 1991, it was donated to the city and converted into a museum. Today, it functions as a floating historical site. Connecting Corpus Christi to the open sea is Aransas Pass. One of the most important maritime gateways on the central Texas coast. Like all such passes along the Gulf, it exists in tension between natural sediment movement and human intervention. Without constant maintenance, the passage would migrate or close entirely, an unacceptable outcome for shipping in the region. To stabilise the inlet, the Aransas Pass jetties were constructed beginning in the late 19th century. These long granite structures extend into the Gulf, forcing water to scour a deeper channel and preventing sand from drifting across the entrance. Standing watch near the pass is the Lydia Ann Lighthouse, one of the oldest surviving lighthouses on the Texas coast. Originally built in 1857, it was established to guide ships through the dangerous approach to Aransas and Corpus Christi bays. The Lydia Ann Lighthouse remained operational into the early 20th century. Eventually replaced by more modern navigational aids. Houston is the largest city in Texas and one of the largest in the United States by population, covering more land area than New York City or Los Angeles. Its location near Buffalo Bayou gave it access to inland waterways, and early boosters quickly understood the city's potential as a port. That ambition culminated in the construction of a dredged waterway stretching more than 50 miles from the Gulf of Mexico to the city's industrial core. Like many American cities, Houston embraced the automobile aggressively. Vast areas of older neighborhoods were cleared to accommodate parking lots and urban freeways. Entire districts were fragmented or erased as expressways cut through the city, prioritizing vehicle throughput over walkability or continuity. The Katy Freeway, part of Interstate 10, reaches up to 26 lanes in places, making it one of the widest highways in the world. Rather than easing congestion long term, these expansions reinforce sprawl, deepening Houston's dependence on cars. Public transit exists, but distances, heat, and infrastructure design make driving the default for most residents. East of downtown, near the ship channel, stands the San Jacinto Monument. A reminder that Houston's story began long before highways. The monument marks the site of the Battle of San Jacinto in 1836. Where Texian forces defeated the Mexican army, securing Texas independence. Rising 567 feet, San Jacinto is the tallest masonry column in the world, even taller than the Washington Monument. Located in central Texas, Fredericksburg was founded in 1846 by German immigrants and named after Prince Frederick of Prussia. Unlike many frontier settlements, it was planned deliberately, with wide streets and a central market area. The town's early settlers negotiated a controversial peace agreement with local tribes, allowing the colony to survive when many others failed. German language, customs, and architecture persisted here well into the 20th century, and traces of that heritage remain visible today. The town's main axis is Main Street, a long walkable corridor lined with limestone buildings. Many of the original structures date to the mid-19th century, built from local stone and designed for durability rather than ornament. Unlike cities that erased their early cores, Fredericksburg retained its centre, allowing the town to grow outward while preserving its original scale. North of Fredericksburg, Enchanted Rock feels like an interruption in the landscape. In a region dominated by rolling limestone, this exposed mass of pink granite stands alone. Visible from miles away, Enchanted Rock is a massive batholith. Part of a larger underground formation emplaced more than 1 billion years ago. Over immense spans of time, softer surrounding rock eroded away, leaving this resistant core exposed at the surface. What remains today is a smooth, dome-shaped monolith rising about 425 feet above the surrounding terrain. Geologically, the dome is an example of exfoliation, a process where sheets of granite peel away as temperatures fluctuate. This creates the rounded, layered appearance of the rock face and produces sudden fractures that can shed large slabs. These processes are ongoing, making Enchanted Rock a living geological feature rather than a static one. The Pedernales River is one of the most visually distinctive in central Texas. And one of the most dangerous during sudden storms. Its name comes from the Spanish word pedernal, meaning flint, referencing the flint-rich limestone exposed along its bed. In dry periods, water breaks into disconnected pools. After heavy rain, the same river can rise violently within minutes. This dynamic is most visible at Pedernales Falls. These falls are not a vertical drop, but a series of wide limestone ledges. Under normal flow, water sheets gently across the rock. During flood events, it becomes a fast-moving horizontal wall of water. Downstream near Johnson City, the river encounters human intervention in the form of Johnson City Dam. Built in the 1930s, the Lowhead Dam was constructed primarily for water supply and local flow regulation. Unlike major reservoir dams, it does not create a large lake, but instead backs water into a narrow, elongated pool upstream. West of Austin, hidden within the fractured limestone of the Texas Hill Country, lies Hamilton Pool Preserve. Unlike open rivers or broad valleys, this landscape exists because the ground gave way, exposing a rare geological structure. Hamilton Pool began forming thousands of years ago when the dome of an underground limestone cavern collapsed. What remained was a natural grotto, a steep-walled bowl partially enclosed by an overhanging limestone shelf. At its center lies a jade-colored pool, fed by a 50-foot waterfall, which spills from the remaining cavern rim. Water at Hamilton Pool is highly seasonal. After extended dry periods, the waterfall may reduce to a trickle or stop entirely. Following heavy rain, the falls return in force, and Hamilton Creek can flood rapidly. Once a complete cave ceiling, the overhang now forms a semicircular arch above the pool, stained with mineral deposits. Austin was selected as the capital of the Republic of Texas in 1839, then known as Waterloo. When Texas joined the United States in 1845, Austin retained its role as the seat of government. The most dominant symbol of that role is the Texas state capitol. Completed in 1888, the building rises 308 feet, making it taller than the US Capitol in Washington, D.C. The structure reflects Renaissance Revival architecture. With a massive dome and a symmetrical layout designed. The Capitol grounds cover 22 acres and remain one of the most open and accessible state capitol complexes in the country. Directly north of downtown lies the University of Texas. Founded in 1883 and now one of the largest public universities in the United States. Its central tower, completed in 1937, stands as a visual counterpoint to the Capitol Dome. For much of the 20th century, Austin remained relatively small compared to Houston or Dallas. That changed in the late 1990s when technology companies began transforming the city into a major tech and innovation center. In the late 19th century, Galveston was the most important port in Texas and one of the wealthiest cities in the South. With paved streets, electric lights, and a skyline of ornate commercial buildings. That era left behind a remarkable collection of Victorian, Romanesque, and neoclassical architecture. After the devastating hurricane in 1900, a massive seawall was constructed along the shore, and large portions of the island were physically raised using dredged sand. The Port of Galveston is a major cruise port, ranking among the busiest in North America. Modern terminals handle year-round cruise traffic, linking the island to the Caribbean and Mexico. Galveston is also an important hub for the offshore oil industry. With rigs using its port for servicing. Offering unique views for visitors who can see these massive structures docked. Waco was founded in the 1840s near a natural ford on the Brazos, making it a logical stop for settlers moving west. The city takes its name from the Waco Native American tribe who lived in the region prior to European settlement. As Central Texas filled in, Waco grew into a regional commercial hub, serving surrounding agricultural communities. One of Waco's most recognizable landmarks is a suspension bridge constructed in 1870. Designed by civil engineer Thomas Griffith, the bridge replaced dangerous ferry crossings and transformed Waco into a key transportation node. Today, it no longer carries vehicles but remains open to pedestrians. Preserved as a defining symbol of the city's early ambition. The McLennan County Courthouse, completed in 1902, is a prominent example of Beaux-Arts and classical revival architecture. Built from limestone and granite, it reflects the era when county courthouses were designed as monuments as much as functional buildings. At the far eastern edge of Texas, where the state dissolves into forest and water, Caddo Lake exists as an anomaly. One of the few natural lakes in the state, it formed after a massive log jam known as the Great Raft blocked the Red River. Over time, this created shallow, extensive wetlands along the Texas-Louisiana border. The result is a mosaic of bayous, sloughs, and open water covering roughly 25,000 acres, with water levels fluctuating seasonally. The most striking feature of Caddo Lake is its bald cypress forest. Thousands of trees rise directly from the water. Many of them are centuries old, predating European settlement in the region. Spanish moss drapes their branches, reinforcing a visual character more commonly associated with the Deep South than with Texas. The lake's shallow depth, submerged timber, and shifting channels make navigation difficult without local knowledge. Far from the coast and rivers that shaped Texas's earlier cities, Dallas rose instead from rail lines. By the late 19th century, Dallas had become a regional trading center. Connecting rural North Texas to national markets. The city's skyline reflects its modern identity. Rather than a single dominant tower, Dallas presents a dense cluster of high-rises. One of its most recognizable landmarks is Reunion Tower, completed in 1978. 561 feet high, the tower is capped with a geodesic dome, illuminated by hundreds of LED lights. In contrast to the modern skyline stands the Old Red Museum. Housed in the former Dallas County Courthouse. The building is a striking example of Romanesque revival architecture, constructed from red sandstone. Spanning the Trinity River west of downtown is the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge. Opened in 2012, designed by architect Santiago Calatrava, the cable-stayed bridge features a dramatic central arch rising above the roadway. West of Dallas, separated more by culture than by distance, lies Fort Worth. Often described as Dallas's twin. Yet where its neighbour grew as a centre of finance, Fort Worth developed as a frontier outpost. preserving connections to the American West. Downtown grew more slowly and compactly than Dallas. Its skyline is smaller, its streets less aggressive. The city invested heavily in cultural institutions rather than sheer scale, a choice that continues to shape its reputation. By the late 19th century, Fort Worth had earned the enduring nickname Cowtown. Cattle were not just an industry here. They dictated the city's layout, economy, and daily rhythm. At the heart of this history are the Fort Worth Stockyards. Brick livestock exchanges, pens, and rail infrastructure transformed cattle from roaming herds into standardized commodities. All that infrastructure exists because of one creature above all others, the Texas Longhorn. More than livestock, they became a moving foundation of the Texas economy and one of the most durable symbols of the American West. Its ancestors arrived with Spanish colonists in the 16th century. Cattle descended from Iberian stock brought to the Americas. Physically, the Longhorn is defined by its horns, which can span 6 to 7 feet tip to tip. These horns served practical purposes, defense against predators, and spacing within herds. After the Civil War, they became the backbone of the cattle drive era. They could endure months on the trail, subsist on native grasses. This dominance did not last. By the late 19th century, the introduction of British cattle breeds shifted the industry. Longhorns survived largely through deliberate preservation. As small herds were maintained on isolated ranches. Northwest of Fort Worth, where the Brazos River cuts through rugged limestone hills, the landscape changes abruptly. Flat prairie gives way to deep blue water of Possum Kingdom Lake. One of the most visually striking reservoirs in Texas. The lake was formed in 1941 with the completion of Morris Shepherd Dam. The reservoir stretches roughly 20 miles, covering about 17,000 acres, with more than 300 miles of highly irregular shoreline. Steep limestone cliffs, rising in places more than 100 feet above the water, line portions of the lake. These bluffs expose layers of ancient marine rock, remnants of a time when much of Texas lay beneath shallow seas. The most famous feature is Hell's Gate, a narrow opening between two towering rock walls near the dam. Originally a river channel, it became an iconic visual landmark once submerged, symbolizing the dramatic change from river to reservoir. On the high plains of the Texas Panhandle, Capra Canyon State Park protects one of the most significant and least expected wildlife stories in the state. Beyond its red sandstone cliffs and rugged breaks, the park is home to the Texas State bison herd. American bison once numbered in the tens of millions, ranging from Canada to northern Mexico. By the late 19th century, deliberate eradication campaigns had reduced the population to fewer than 1,000 animals. The survival of the species depended on a handful of private herds. One of the most important was established by Charles and Mary Ann Goodnight. Goodnight captured a small number of bison calves and raised them on his ranch near Palo Duro Canyon. In 1997, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department transferred a portion of the Goodnight herd to the park, making it the official Texas State bison herd. Today, the animals move freely across the park's grasslands, managed but not confined in the manner of traditional livestock. Flowing quietly through the heart of the hill country, the Blanco River is one of the region's defining waterways, smaller and less famous than some of its neighbours, but central to the landscapes and communities it passes through. Its name, Spanish for white, likely refers to the pale limestone riverbed visible through its clear water during normal flow. The Blanco River originates in Kendall County and runs roughly 90 miles before joining the San Marcos River. From there, its water eventually reaches the Guadalupe River and continues toward the Gulf of Mexico. Cypress and sycamore line the banks, providing shade and stabilizing soil. The Blanco is prone to flash floods. The most significant recent event occurred in May 2015. Entire neighbourhoods in Wimberley were destroyed. Bridges were washed away and lives were lost. Texas continues to expand its influence well beyond its borders. What was once a frontier and later an energy state has become a growing force within the United States and on the global stage. Its economy is among the largest and fastest growing in the country. Increasingly shaped by advanced technology. Ports along the Gulf move global trade. Inland hubs distribute goods across North America. And research centres push into new industries. Cities continue to expand outward and upward, absorbing new populations and industries, while rural regions remain tied to production. Texas's landscapes are not backdrops, but active parts of the state's identity. Ancient geology frames modern development. Working lands coexist with protected parks. Rivers that once guided migration now supply cities and agriculture.